There we go. And we are, oops, not there. We are on, well, I don't know what page. My page is 499, but it's the sentence starting. We were talking about renunciation and liberation, and remember about whether you had to die on the banks of the Ganges or you had to die in Varanasi in order to get enlightenment. And Ramakrishna is saying, absolutely not. It's very much the same as what Mother said, that it's really by grace alone that anybody is liberated. That yes, he did say that if you die in Varanasi, yes, it's true. He said, but you can't decide you're going to die in Varanasi. He says your karma will determine whether you die in Varanasi or not. And so really it's a moot point. You you're only going to get there on your deathbed if it's your karma to get there. And if it's your karma to get it there, it's your karma to get it, period. And so wherever you are. And so he says the Gyani will realize God wherever he has wherever he has his last day. And so he says, the master said at the end of last week's talk, he said, a person dying in Benares sees the vision of Shiva. Shiva says to him, this is my aspect with form, my embodiment in Maya. Right, my embodiment in Maya. I like that. I mean, anytime that God incarnates, he has to dip into Maya. He has to take that little speck, that dust particle of me and mine, so that a body gets made, so that he becomes a particular, and then his sense of the particular is what will form the body. And that's really the case for all of us. We all formed our body based on our ideal and on what our karma dictated that would be helpful, the most helpful. I don't ever see karma as punishment. I think to see punishment or to interpret something as punishment, I think is a misunderstanding of the nature of God. I think everything is helpful. And some of them require quite a bit of renunciation to get to that helpfulness. but but the motivation in all suffering is growth, is freedom. And I think Mother does that to us to get us to question. We don't tend to grow proactively, right? If we're comfortable, we very much just sit there and drink our Mai Tai by the pool and la 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 la, life goes on, right? But it's if we get cold, then we get up and get a jacket. If we get wet, we go and get an umbrella. And so Mother has to use these discomforts sometimes to get us to move, to get us to think and to wonder more deeply, and when one of our family members passes away and we wonder, why me? Why me? Well, because you're going to ask the right questions when that time comes. When Nachiketa says in the Katha Upanishad that there's no better teacher than death, that's what he's talking about. Death is what makes you ask the questions. In the face of death, what's important? Those things that dance in front of us most of the time as important, our cars, our families, our friends, our jobs, our income, all those things, they seem important when we're in the narrative of ego. But when you're facing your last moments, what's important to you? What's important? And I think that's why it really makes us think about what kind of legacy we want to leave behind, right? We always describe God when we think of what we want for a legacy. Oh, he was so kind. He always had time for everybody. He was helpful. He was sweet. He was so generous, right? All those things. Even the most horrible person wants to be remembered well by others. And so this, all that from this aspect with form, my embodiment in Maya. This is what we bring in with us, what we're working out. We choose our birth. We don't remember choosing it because there's not a brain there or a memory there to write down what we were doing. We were existing in the moment between bodies. And when we chose this new body, when we chose this new life for ourselves, I don't think that happens in conscious mind. It's kind of an imprint of your entire self, your entire your entire state of being. I think when, just for fun, I say this stuff, but when you die, you're left with only kind of a vector. If you've ever done vector math, each vector has a direction and a momentum, I think it is. It has a direction and the speed at which it's going in that direction. So when we pass away, all of our life kind of gets calculated into a vector, uh, a vector calculation. And when we take on the new body, as soon as we come out into that independent new body, that vector, whoosh, we're off and running in the direction of our karmas and encountering the new karmas that are meant to bring us to zero karma, right? To have no karma, a perfect balance, sattva, like that. So Shiva's saying that this is the body that I take in my embodiment in Maya. I assume this form for the sake of the devotees, right? I do it for the devotees. And I think that to have a karma where you do things for the others, you would almost have to be a Shiva. I was talking about earlier about the Peace Pilgrim that we were reading yesterday afternoon in the new Mother book. And the thing I'm most impressed about her, or the thing that impresses me the most about her, is that she's not doing it for God. Is that a blasphemous thing to say? She's not doing it to get to realization. She's not doing it to get to heaven or not to go to hell or to please some power outside of herself. She's doing it for the love of humanity, that to speak of inner peace, because she was terribly concerned with the state of the world and with how the direction we were going. And she just looked at the situation and just saw it clearly and threw herself into it. No reservations, and I thought that was so beautiful. And so here it's no wonder that a Shiva, when Shiva chooses his body, that he does it for the sake of the devotees. He's not coming to work out his own karmas, to work out his own desires and his own troubles. He came for the good of the devotees. Now look, I am merging in the indivisible Satchit Ananda. Uttering these words, Shiva withdraws his form and enables the dying person to see Brahman. The Puranas say that even a Chandala endowed with love of God achieves liberation. Right? A Chandala, I think that's an untouchable, right? The lowest caste or a non-caste or something. But so everybody can realize God is the point, right? Even a Chandala endowed with love of God achieves liberation. According to this school, the name of God is enough to liberate a soul. There is no need of such things as worship, sacrifice, the discipline of Tantra, and the recitation of mantras. Right? These are all part of procedures, paths to bring us forward. But the important thing, are you loving? Right? Vivekananda says there's only two questions that a spiritual self person needs to ask. Well, first one, am I unselfish? He said, to the degree that you are unselfish, to that degree you are spiritual, right? So being unselfish. And then he said the other one is proactive. Am I loving? Not just being unselfish, but am I actually being loving? Am I manifesting divinity? Right? Those are the only two things. To the degree that we're unselfish and to the degree that we're loving, to that degree we know God. Right? That's the only measure of spiritual life. It's not how much you've memorized, how often you sit, how long you meditate, whether you've had this, that, and other visions or superpowers or whatever that may come along in the package. There's only two things important. Do you love? And are you unselfish? There is no need of such things as worship, sacrifice, the discipline of Tantra, and the recitation of mantras, right? So no need for them, but you can still do them. And if you do them without need, you're doing them right, right? If you're doing them to play exchange, to play shop with the divine, I'm doing this to get this. I'm doing this because I want to be a good devotee. You know, that, but to do it for its own sake. I'm worshiping God because it's bliss. to be in the presence. I'm doing this practice because I love God. It's like the same attitude that Vivekananda went to see Ramakrishna. Remember, Ramakrishna tested him for a month and didn't even look at him, wouldn't talk to him, wouldn't greet him, wouldn't even look at him for a whole month. And Vivekananda didn't even react to it. And he just kept coming and just carrying on. And at the end of the month, finally, Ramakrishna says, "Why do you come here?" He says, "I haven't spoken to you. I haven't looked at you. I haven't encouraged you. I've done nothing for you. And still you're here." And Vivekananda just shrugged his shoulders and said, "I come because I love you. you know, I just love being around you. That's why I'm here." And I thought, what a free and beautiful way of practicing religion. And that's my new ideal, actually. I've really been thinking a lot about Peace Pilgrim yesterday, and I want to get rid of all my fear. I want to stop practicing religion to save myself. That was so deeply ingrained in me growing up, and I just find it revolting, actually, in my mind. I want to just be free. I want to enjoy this life because I've learned how to live it, because I've learned that love is the thing, and to own that, and to dance in that, and to play in that. And the rest of it, just dump it. Be free. Love. Right? Now we start the new part. But the teachings of the Vedas are different. According to the Vedas, none but a Brahmin can be liberated. Further, the worship is not accepted by the gods unless the mantras are recited correctly. One must perform sacrifice and worship and so on, according to the scriptural injunctions. But where is the time in the Kali Yuga, right? That's this age that we're in at the moment. Where is the time in the Kali Yuga to perform these Vedic rituals? Therefore, in the Kali Yuga, the path of devotion prescribed by Narada is the best, right? And that's this book, Narada's Path of Divine Love, the Narada Bhakti Scriptures, right? That's the fastest and most effective way to realize God in this time, in this age, he says. The path of karma is very difficult. Karma becomes a cause of bondage unless it is performed in a spirit of detachment. Further, the life of a man nowadays depends on food. He's got no time to observe the rituals enjoined by the scriptures, right? I mean, we're working 8, 10, 12 hours a day these days just to afford rent. Where's the time to do a 3 hour lecture, a 3 hour ritual, or a multi-day worship? The society doesn't value those things anymore. It's very difficult to practice them. So he says, further, the life of a man nowadays depends on food. He has no time to observe the rituals enjoined by the scriptures. The patient dies if he tries to cure his fever by taking the decoction of herbs prescribed by the orthodox native physicians. Therefore, he should take a modern fever mixture. Right? He's saying if nowadays, if you try and cure your disease with just the Ayurveda, the old ways, he says, you're going to die. You don't have you don't have the time for that, right? You don't have the requirements for that. He says better just take some aspirin, call him back in the morning. Anyway, I don't think his point is not to do Ayurveda or to do Western or modern medicine. I think he's just saying that in this day and age, we're very busy and we're very distracted. And so these enjoyments of the Vedas are not going to work these days. And so it's better and easier and faster, not superior. I said better, but better in the relative sense, like better because it's going to be more effective for you to practice devotion, right? Because love is your nature. And in bhakti, the path is love and the goal is love. And so that makes it very simple. And the precision is not required because love brings a lot of grace with it. Love brings a lot of freedom with it. And so we don't have to be as meticulous as you do if you're following the paths of karma and you're having to do a worship where every single mantra has to be properly done and every single mudra and every single offering has to be at the right time in the right order. And if you make a mistake, the whole thing is no good. You have to start over again. No, it's not like that in a devotional worship. You know, in a devotional worship, you make a mistake, you giggle a little bit with mother, you say, I'm sorry, I'll do better next time, you know, and you keep going. And that's how it is. And that's the path of devotion. According to Narada, the devotee should sing the name and glories of God. The path of karma is not the right one for the Kali Yuga. Bhakti Yoga is the right path. Do your duties in the world as long as you need them to reap the fruit of the actions of your past lives. But you must develop love for God and be passionately attached to Him. The singing of the name and glories of God destroys the effect of past action. There you go. See, the way to cure your karma is to sing the names and glories. Now, is there something magical in the names of glories? Well, yeah, but it's not really because they're magical, but it's because you're being in the presence. And the presence of Satchitananda is always healing, right? That's that light of awareness. It's not just a light. It's a light of infinite potential. It's the divine hand, right? And so to chant the name of God is to bring that light of love within yourself, that light of wisdom within yourself, the light of being, of presence, of here and now into yourself. And in that light, because of all of the power in its potential, it's a healing light. And so to chant the name of God is to heal yourself, right? It's to remind yourself of the presence of love, because this love for God is really love for love, right? Fall in love with love. God is the very essence of that love. And it's a divine love from the divine God because it's unconditioned. He has no ego that we have to placate, right? You don't have to perform duties all your life. As you develop unalloyed love and longing for God, your duties will become fewer and fewer. After the realization of God, they completely drop away. When the young daughter-in-law is pregnant, her mother-in-law lessens her duties. After the birth of the child, she doesn't have to do any of the household work. Several young men from the village of Dakshineshwar entered the room and saluted Sri Ramakrishna. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and they sat down and began to talk with the master. But what he was getting at there, that your duties drop away, that's a very beautiful and faith building thing that he's saying there. You are not on your own in your spiritual walk. It's not up to you to find your guru. It's not up to you to find your path. It's not up to you, up to you, up to you, up to you. The divine is walking every step of it with you, and when the time for the guru comes. The way that it is found, the master will inspire in the moment, you know. And when it's time for you to do something different or to change something different, that will also happen in its time, through grace. There's one guru, and that is the divine guru, the guru that first is planted firmly within you. It's that Satchitananda. But we need a face of a guru because our disease is chronic, right? The noise of our mind and the strength of our ego drowns out the voice of the inner guru. And so in the beginning, we have to have that face of the guru, someone we can talk to, someone who can tell you, no, stop that. You're being egotistical. No, that's not a good practice for you. I don't care if you like it. Don't do it. Right? So we need that at first, but that face of the guru will disappear in time, and the guru will move inward. You'll begin to hear it within yourself. You will begin to know, right? Through a knowing, not a thought process, not a reasoning process, but something deeper, a knowing of what you're doing is right, or that it's time for something different, or whatnot. You'll know these things. And so this idea is that as you do become more and more spiritual and you need more and more focus and more support to hold those spiritual ideals, to maintain your detachment and your renunciation, Mother will do that for you. She'll take away your duties, put you in a situation, that will help out. I mean, there's a wonderful devotee in Colorado. She's got a partner, a life partner, a husband, and as she has grown in her spiritual practice and her desire to become a renunciate, to become a nun, but she didn't know if she had to move into a monastery, leave the world. Anyway, her husband told her, he said, "I'm here to fully support you. If you want to be a nun, be a nun. I can be with you as a nun, and respect all of those rules and regulations for that." And he says, "You can use this house, make it an ashram." And so she literally had her home consecrated by one of her teachers as her ashram. And so now she's living the life in her own way like that. That's the delight of God. That's the delight of God to take something and create it for you in a way that's the most helpful to you, and a light to everyone else. When I looked at her husband and his willingness to let her be a renunciate and to support her in her spiritual life, my heart cried. I was like, that is one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. That's real love. That's the real thing. And I just bow down again and again to that because this is how God is. You are enveloped in that love, and He is watching everything, not to keep a grade, but to always make sure you get what's best for you, to always be sure that you get what is needed and what is helpful and what will bring you forward the fastest in the most effective way. The young man speaks up. He says, "Sir, what is knowledge?" Yeah, I remember the first time I read that question, I was like, it seems like a silly question. And at the same time, wow, what is knowledge? Right? What is it to know something? And how do you know something? Right? So he says, "Sir, what is knowledge?" And Master says, "It is to know that God is the only reality and that all else is unreal." You see, so it's not a stacking of philosophies or facts or information. It's not a collection. Knowledge is to know one thing, to know who you are, to know that this world of change is unreal and that the only thing unchanging is your divinity, the presence of God within you. Knowing that one thing, remembering that one thing, exposing yourself to that one idea will unfold everything else, right? Ramakrishna was illiterate, and look at how much we study him. Look at how much we learned from his words. It's been 100 years already, and this guy, I love the way Ramakrishna, the way Vivekananda talked about him, that old man and his wife. But just in that sense, this guy, this little, putzing uh, temple priest in a little tiny village, a temple that wasn't even built by a Brahmin, that he was the overseer there, the caretaker there, the worshiper there. That was his job, right? He never wrote anything. He never went out and gave lectures. He never put up a poster. He never sent out CDs. Obviously didn't have a YouTube channel. He did nothing but live his life. And I, on the other side of the planet, 100 and some odd years later, you know, got so inspired that I did the absurd. Just jumped in and ran because it was beautiful, right? And so a life lived in knowledge, right, is not to have a bunch of degrees. A life in knowledge is to know the nature of love, to have found it within yourself, and to have been freed from your bondage, freed from your unknowing that led you to make up all kinds of absurd definitions of who and what you were and what the point of your life was, right? Your point of life is not a building of anything. The point of life is to live, which means be present and let this divine beauty within you out. Let it out. That's the point of life. And a fulfilling life, a happy life, a joyful life, all of that is byproduct, right? It just happens. It's never a goal. It's never a thing you run after. You'll never find it if you're running after it. That's the point. Be. Live this moment fully by being present in it, and let what is you, that divinity, that Satchit Ananda, that love and wisdom and being, let it out. Let it out. That's why they call it liberation, right? It's not because your ego gets out and gets to play in the field whenever it wants. It's liberation because the love, the infinite love, the unconditioned love that you are, is allowed out. It's given freedom to express itself without being penned in by the ego, without being penned in by this mercantile idea of life, right? Where you're hungry and need something. No, liberation, it's the liberation of the love that is you. It's able to get out finally and be felt deeply by those around you because there's no limit on it. There's no reticence around it. It is to know that God is the only reality and that everything else is unreal. That which is the real is also called Brahman. It has another name, Kala, time. There is a saying, "O brother, how many things come into being in time and disappear in time?" That which sports as Kala is called Kali. She is the primal energy. Kala and Kali, Brahman and Shakti are the indivisible, right? That changing the manifestation and that which is being manifested, that which has no change, that which is in perfect balance, right? And so those two are the eternal, and they're always together. They're, they are never separate. They are inseparable. Like Thakur says, like milk and its whiteness, like fire and its heat, right? Water and its wetness. They cannot be separated. That Brahman of the nature of reality is eternal, right? Eternal means outside of time, unaffected by time. It exists in past, present, and future. It is without beginning or end. It cannot be described in words. The utmost that can be said of Brahman is that it is of the very nature of intelligence and bliss, right? Its very nature is intelligence and bliss, wisdom and knowing, wisdom and loving, right? That's its nature. And so if you see it, that's what you will move. That is what will inspire you to move, because you, in body form anyway, are Shakti. You're the manifesting power, right? And so we remember that God is love and we are loving. God is intelligence and we are intelligent. God is existence and we exist, right? So we are the manifestation of this divine principle that is the image of God that we have at the very core of who we are. The world is illusory. Brahman alone is real. The world is of the nature of magic. The magician is real, but his magic is unreal. Right? So this world exists because of our ignorance. There's a story because we don't know something, right? If you're all knowing, there's no story, right? There's no story if you know everything. And so ignorance is necessary for the play to happen. And so God becomes a point, and he only looks at a little, he only has a little bit of his knowledge at any given time. And so and that's what causes the paper dolls to dance around the boiling pot of water, right? It's that ignorance, that not knowing, that sense of smallness. And that's what makes the play happen. When we come to knowledge, we identify with everything everywhere all at once, and there's no more story because we know it. We see all of it at once. The young man, well, if the world is of the nature of illusion, magic, then why doesn't one get rid of it? Master, oh, it's due to the samskaras, the inborn tendencies. Repeated births in this world of Maya make one believe that Maya is real. Right? We forget, basically. There's two powers that we know from the scriptures that Maya has, right? The power of forgetfulness, that's it. The power of forgetfulness and the power of projection. Right? So you forget who you are. That's one of the powers of Maya. You forget that you are God or that you are divine or that your nature is divine. And then the power of projection steps in to fill that void. Ah, yes, no. Let me tell you what you are. You're an engineer. You're an American engineer. You're a male engineer and you're 27 years old. And you don't have enough money and now you've got a big family. Go. That's your motivation. Get on stage and do your part. Play your play, right? Run it through. And we go and we try and come to know what we've forgotten. And it's not that we have forgotten, it's that we have moved our identity away from the knowing and into the unknowing. We don't live in the moment. We live as the thought of ourselves in a world of change, right? And so we haven't looked with the inner eye at our true nature. Our true nature, the eye, our inner eye is constantly distracted by these flashing colors of the changing world. So it's due to the samskaras, these things in the past, the fact that you learned that you liked pizza, right? The fact that you learned that you enjoyed blue jeans, the fact that you liked Colorado or California, right? All of these things that you took note of, that you placed in your memory, surrounded yourself with, right? Because you're living as a thought, and what do you surround thoughts with? Other thoughts, and they determine, that pizza was purchased because you remembered you liked it, or you talked to Janet and she said she liked it, or you talked to your mother and she said go get yourself a piece of pizza for lunch, right? It's always something outside of the self that motivates us to do everything. And those things are just from things that we've done, that we remembered, things that we've collected that we didn't want to let go with the flow of time. We grabbed them and tried to make them immortal by placing them in our memory, holding on to them. And that reinforced our smallness, reinforced our sense of need. Repeated births in this world of Maya make one believe that Maya is real. Let me tell you how powerful inborn tendencies are. A prince had, in a previous birth, been the son of a washerman. While playing with his chums in the incarnation as the prince, he said to them, "Stop these games. I will show you a new one. I shall lie on my belly, and you will beat the clothes on my back as the washerman does, making a swishing sound." Right? So somehow he had this memory, of being a washerman, and it probably wasn't even formal. He just thought it would be fun to pretend, right? I'm going to be this. And we have those tendencies in our life. We ask when we figure out what we want to do, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? Of course, we get poisoned right away because everybody's telling us we want to be a policeman or a fireman right away. So we have to get past that phase, right? And we go forward with these ideas from ourselves. Many youngsters come here, but only a few long for God. These few are born with a spiritual tendency. They shudder at the talk of marriage. Niranjan has said from his boyhood that he will not marry. More than 20 years ago, two young men used to come here from Bharanagore. One was named Govinda Pal and the other was Gopal Sen. They had been devoted to God since their boyhood. The very mention of marriage would frighten them. Gopal used to have bhava samadhi. He would shrink from worldly people as a mouse from a cat. One day he saw the boys of the Tagore family strolling in the garden. He shut himself in the kuti lest he should have to talk to the others. Talk to them. Gopal went into samadhi in the Panchavati. In that state he said to me, touching my feet, "Let me go. I cannot live in this world any more. You have a long time to wait. Let me go." I said to him in an ecstatic mood, "You must come again." "Very well, I will," he said. A few days later, Govinda came to me. "Where is Gopal?" I asked. He said, "Oh, he has passed away." Right? And so that's the thing. When we know our nature, the body's no longer necessary. The body doesn't even really seem real to us in those days. And especially as we get older, that's why old age is a grace of God. It's a beauty of God, right? Because God is slowly making us aware of something that we couldn't be aware of when we were young, because we thought we were going to live forever, right? The future was so big and so full of possibilities, we were just completely entranced with what we could become and what we could do with all this time that was in front of us. And then you hit 60 and you sit there and you add 20 years to your life. And I'm oh my God, it might be over. I don't even have 20 years left, right? And then that starts making you say, well, what is real? What was the point of this? What's the point of me? What was the point of all the things that I've done? Right? You start asking the important questions. Your body starts getting too tired to stay out past 9 o'clock. So the thought of going to the clubs is like, oh no, no, that's all right, thanks. Right? You start staying home. I remember when I was in my 20s, I always vowed to myself, oh, when I get old, I'm gonna come out and enjoy life. I'm not gonna become an old person, right? But you don't understand when you're young what it is to be wiser, what it is to be more mature, what it is to be more centered and content with life as it is. You don't need to entertain yourself all the time, right? And so we grow older. It's a grace. Every little gray hair is a reminder of your immortality. That's not in the body, right? Every thing that happens to the body is to show you that you're still the same person that you've always been. You're not the body. See, you're not the body. See, look, watch, right? And it loses its beauty, takes on a different beauty, right? To be a beautiful old person, you have to learn one thing in this life, how to love. If you're an old person and you can look at somebody with love in your eyes, then you know what life was. You knew what was important. You've learned what was important, right? So to grow old is to grow in love. That will replace the beauty of the eyes. That will replace the beauty of your hair and your skin. All those things that are melting, right? And those young people will come to grandma. Why? Because they know grandma loves them, right? They go running to grandpa. Why? Because grandpa loves them more than their parents do, more than their friends do. That's why you're always super excited to see grandma and grandpa, right? Because they know what you really need is a hug and a warm lap to sit in. That's what you need. Govinda came to me. Where is Gopal? I asked him. He said he has passed away, right? He was talking about how some very few young people actually love God. He says, what are the other youngsters about? They're about money and houses and carriages and clothes and finally marriage. These are the things that keep them busy. If they want to marry, at the outset, they make inquiries about the girl. They want to find out for themselves whether she's beautiful. There is a person who speaks much ill of me. He is always criticizing me for loving the youngsters. I love only those who are born with good tendencies, pure souls, with longing for God, who do not pay any attention to money, creature comforts, and such things. If married people develop love for God, they will not be attached to the world. Hirananda is married. What if he is? He will not be much attached to the world. Hirananda, a member of the Brahmo Samaj, was a native of Sindh. He had met the master in Calcutta and became devoted to him. Manilal, the Marwari devotees, the Brahmo devotees from Shibpur, and the other young men from Dakshineshwar saluted Sri Ramakrishna and took their leave. It was evening. The lamps were lighted on the south and west verandas. A lamp was lighted in the master's room also, and incense was burnt. He was repeating the name of the Divine Mother, absorbed in contemplation of her. After a while, he talked again to the devotees. There was still some time before the evening worship in the temples. The master to M. What is the need of the Sandhya? What need of the Sandhya has a man who thinks of God day and night, right? This is making a point here. What's the need of your practice if you're not forgetting God? Right? He's really teaching you why do you do that practice? Why do you repeat your mantra? Why do you sing the names and glories? It's so that you can come into a permanent state of being, right? Not caught in narratives, not caught in ideas, but being present and knowing that divinity, enjoying that bliss, enjoying this life as it was meant to be, that you can play in this world and not get caught in it. Oh my God. You can play in this world and not get caught. What need of rituals has a man? What need of devotions any more? If he repeats the mother's name at the 3 holy hours. Rituals may pursue him close, but never can they overtake him. Charity, vows, and giving of gifts do not appeal to Madan's mind. The blissful mother's lotus feet are his whole prayer and his whole sacrifice. Right? This constant presence of love, this knowledge of God, that's everything. That determines everything that you do in a day. That determines every idea that catches hold in your mind. Love, 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 with a little spice of wisdom and the gift of existence, of being. The Sandhya merges in the Gayatri in Om. A man is firmly established in spiritual life when he goes into samadhi on uttering Om only once. Right? That's to be established in the presence. When you just say the name once and you're gone, you're just in that reverie of bliss, the presence, bottomless. That love will always grow. There is no limit to it. You can worship God for 10 billion years, and on the next day, you will find something new that is more lovable, something that is more adorable. You will never stop falling in love with God. All right, we'll stop there for today.